Let me make some observations which won't please some, but you've got to start somewhere. The New South Wales budget was handed down yesterday. It further confirms to me that the government, as a Liberal government, has lost its way. Indeed, the Liberal Party of 2021 across Australia seems to have made a Faustian pact with left-wing socialist ideology. How else do you describe a Liberal Party which finds it acceptable to hand out $100 vouchers so city slickers can long lunch on a Friday, when it's the government itself that's created the problem that it tries to solve by throwing away your money? Yesterday, the South Australian Liberal government announced the largest deficit in the state's history, $1.8 billion. Apparently, Liberals don't care. Or are the New South Wales Liberals so ideologically bereft that they're just, as Johnny Cash sang, desperados waiting for a train? Will the new Labor leader, Chris Minns, shake things up, talking speed cameras and the government's obsession with revenue raising, backing the nurses, rejecting the government's proposal to take over the cemeteries, and thank goodness, wanting to tackle road tolls? These are the things Struggle Street are talking about, not lunching in Sydney's CBD on the taxpayer's dime, paid for by people who could never afford to be in the CBD. The economist Professor Judith Sloan has written, I suppose humorously, in The Spectator about the New South Wales government, magnificent magazine, The Spectator. She writes, "It's just a pathetic left-of-centre outfit pandering to all the fashionable woke and climate-related causes." She says many of the ministers would fit in very well with the Labor Party. Actually, she says, make that the Greens. Well, Matt Keane's 1, James Griffin's 2, Don Harwin's 3. Judith Sloan writes, and when it comes to debt, it's an explosive situation. New South Wales government net debt goes from $19 billion in June last year to $97 billion in June 2024. As Judith says, an increase of over 400%. Even Queensland, in its most profligate period, didn't match this rate of increase in government debt. Now remember, this is a so-called Liberal government. Of Matt Keane, Judith Sloan doesn't miss, quote, his plan to transform the electricity grid within the state runs the very real risk of pushing up prices and damaging reliability, but he can always claim that he's saving the planet. Of course, he's got very little real understanding of either the engineering or the economics of the electricity grid, even though the New South Wales government had done a deal with the federal government to guarantee additional gas. He was off bagging gas as a transition fuel. Of the Transport Minister, Andrew Constance, who seems to have gone mad lately. Andrew, what's happened to you? Professor Sloan writes, he's been bitten by the electric vehicle bug, notwithstanding the highly dubious environmental benefits of the switch, both because of the emissions intensity of the manufacture of electric vehicles, as well as the fact that at least 60% of electricity is still being generated by coal. She goes on, demonstrating his complete ignorance in the matter. He has blasted the Victorian government's, one of the very few sensible things they've done, utterly sensible decision to impose a road user charge on electric vehicle owners. Because of the weight of the batteries, electric vehicles impose greater damage on roads than conventional vehicles, unquote. I don't know how governments can talk this nonsense. It's beyond me. How they get away with it further astonishes me. Perhaps Judith Sloan has the answer, quote, let's not forget that Gladys is fully on board with net zero emissions by 2050 and all sorts of other woke causes. Well, that's my report card. A spendthrift centre-right government which has been let off the hook for far too long, joining every woke cause imaginable. The big issues still remain. Housing affordability for young people, a rotten education system in tatters, no new dams. When will a Liberal government try being honest to its inheritance, just for a change?